Hello and welcome to a look at the Amiga version of Ikari Warriors. I've already done a full playthrough on my channel of the Commando 64 version of this game, and I was a bit hesitant of covering the Amiga version because I remembered it being utter crap. Now, a lot of games that I've covered, I try to look up comments about what people think about the games just to get a general idea of what the attitude is towards the game, and an awful lot of the comments seems to be commenting based on memory more than relative recent experience, and that was also the case for this game. What I remembered wasn't entirely accurate because the game is actually not half bad. Except for this sound, which is one of the worst sounds ever created in any computer game. Ever. Yeah. Whoever came up with that sound, what did he do? Throw a fork in a blender or something? I don't know. But the plot is that the Ikari Warriors are sent out to pick up some general thing, whatever. But of course they're playing grasslands in the jungle, and suddenly they find themselves in a position where they have to fight their way through the jungle in order to reach the general. A plot that's a bit like Lord of the Rings. If the Eagles had carried Frodo all the way to Mount Doom from the beginning, it would have been a very, very short story. According to magazine reviews, this is supposed to be much closer to being arcade perfect than the Commodore 64 version, which I can't attest to because I haven't played the arcade version. I don't even think I've seen it. Obviously, I haven't seen every arcade game out there, so I wouldn't be an expert in the field. But if they say that's the case, then maybe I should believe them. But I mean, we are talking gaming magazines, which of course was the source of your reviews, and you were relying on those reviews to be accurate, and 9 out of 10 times they were quite inaccurate. Let's get the graphics out of the way first. The graphics are not bad. They look perhaps a bit, I don't know, almost cartoonish, which I suppose is a good thing. I mean, it doesn't have to be ultra realistic. The sound design goes from being decent to being absolutely horrible. The sound of the tank driving is one of the worst sounds I've ever heard in any computer game. And I will happily repeat that, even though I said it earlier. It really sounds absolutely ear-splitting. But explosions and all that stuff are decently okay kind of thing. The music, it is apparently inspired by the arcade theme, and in truth I think the Commodore 64 version's music is better than the Amiga version. The Amiga version has a bit more richness to it, but it doesn't necessarily makes it a better tune. I consider the Commodore 64 tune to be somewhat iconic and the Amiga version to be somewhat average. The gameplay, of course, is a Commando style shoot everything that moves with your machine gun, and from time to time throw hand grenades at stuff, people, buildings, whatever. And then from time to time as well you can enter these tanks that have fuel, and if they ever run out of fuel for some bizarre reason they self-destruct, so it's something to be mindful of. Driving around in the tank, of course, you are impervious to small armor fire, but you are still quite vulnerable to grenades and other tanks, and of course mines, which has a bad habit of just showing up about a quarter of an inch before you hit them, which I suppose is realistic enough. The main difference between this and the Commodore 64 version is that you can actually lock your firing direction. In the Commodore 64 version, you were aiming the way you were moving, or the direction you were moving, but in this version you can press the spacebar to lock the aim, so the aim stays fixed, which was one of the mechanics of the arcade apparently. And then you can move independently and keep your aim in one position. It sounds a bit gimmicky, but you can find it useful in certain areas. Of course, the option to play two players at the same time is something I can't test because I'm playing these games by myself and I'm not entirely sure my wife would share my gaming enjoyment, but you never know. Maybe I should ask her one day. All in all though, as I said, not knowing of the arcade, I haven't got a reference point, so I can't see how arcade accurate it is. But I can compare it to the version that I know very well, which of course is the Commodore 64 version, and the main differences I find between the two versions is obviously, I mean, there's some graphical and sound differences, which is what you would expect the differences to be between a Commodore 64 and Amiga game in terms of being an 8 and 16-bit system. But I still think, well, from a graphical point of view, that the Commodore 64 version looks, I wouldn't necessarily say better, but more thematically correct, if that's a term. It is now. I've just invented it, but it doesn't exist. Gameplay is about the same. The Amiga version is significantly more difficult. It has a lot more enemies and specifically tanks. But by and large they roughly play the same. The thing is though, as I was saying initially in this video, I remember this game being rather poor in the Amiga. And while it's definitely not the best game ever made, it is half a decent arcade conversion, and honestly, except for the tank driving sounds, I cannot repeat I can't repeat often enough how bad that sound is. This is a game I could easily see myself trying to complete, just like I did with the Commodore 64 version, and I can easily see that it's possible to complete it if you take your time and learn where the enemies come from and how many of them show up and all that good stuff that you need to do with action games in order to beat them. Of course, I could mention the various power-ups that are available, but they are just basically ammunition pickup, grenade pickups, smart bomb kind of things, and enhancing explosion radius of your grenades. And I proved that typing can be very, very hard to do. Haha. Anyway, in conclusion, not a bad little game. Not as bad as I remembered it to be, at least. On that note, thanks for watching, take care, see you next time, bye bye for now.